I had been doing research online. I was making TikTok videos about it. And I actually had a few people reach out to me telling me about someone in their family that had a miraculous healing with him. And we had a lot of wild synchronicities leading into actually going there. And so I felt pretty confident that this guy had the ability. A 30-year track record. He's only charging, 70 cents per surgery. So these were just some of the indications to me that, okay, I think this guy probably is able to do what people are saying.
Working 7 days a week and 24 hours. Yep, I got the business saying this.
Tedevan Kurzweil, welcome to the show. Welcome to Become Your Own Superhero.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Tedevan, a good chunk of this audience will only be listening to this, so they won't have the privilege of seeing you in real life. Would you just describe kind of what you look like and what you're wearing for our audio-only audience?
So I have this if Santa Claus became Superman Christmas sweater that I found in Toronto recently. And when you're extremely tall, like 6'7" with long arms, if you find something that fits you, you tend to want to just roll with that. You're like, okay, I guess that's what I'm getting. And I like big colors. I kind of got wild dreaded hair, but it's all up in a bun, and a bit of scruff on my face. And I look like a Western European depiction of Jesus, supposedly, but I don't think he really looked like me. But that's what everyone says. So that's it in a nutshell.
Now, folks, we've got a fascinating conversation for you today. You always know that I love to bring on fascinating people that are great storytellers that have a message that will inspire and empower and motivate people to take action for themselves. And I really want to continue on that vein going into 2024. This is being recorded December 20th, 2023. So the Santa Superman is more pertinent than ever. But Tedevan, did you think that life had peaked for you when you appeared in a Nickelback music video?
I certainly hope that the rock star Nickelback moment wasn't the peak. But I think what was really funny about it was I would run into people here and there. They're like, you were in the Nickelback video, And I had other things actually before that. I was on an American talk show called Ricky Lake, where they let me do comedy. I did this wild performance art comedy. And then I had also been on an American dating show called Blind Date twice. So it wasn't my first foray. It was certainly my briefest, but it was the one that just kept getting played over and over and over and over again because that song Rockstar was pretty big. So the music video got, I'm somewhere just a little bit after Kid Rock. I can't remember who I come between, but
objectively speaking, I'm not saying this to make you feel better about yourself. I would say you are one of the more memorable people from the music video with the enthusiasm around the dancing. And given there was people, like you mentioned, Kid Rock, and there was a bunch of, like when that came out in the early 2000s, that song?
Yeah, they were very famous people. I actually have a cool story about it. Years later, I was in Miami, and I reconnected with the director, whoever was involved in the project at some point. I think it was in Miami. And he said, initially, the record label only wanted to use famous people. And he showed him footage of me, and Nickelback's like, oh, is he like some actor? Like, who's that guy? And he's like, no, he's just this random dude I found in the park. And apparently that was the push that they said, yeah, use like regular people. So that was, that's what happened. And I was wearing a shirt that said, see this movie, which I'd gotten for free at Sundance that year. Nothing was planned. I was just chilling in Union Square Park. And they just brought me on, and I got to be in that video. And then friends of friends. I think what was interesting is I had friends, certain people who'd never seen me, like their parents, and they like figured out that must have been me. I didn't exactly, I guess because of where it was and kind of what they'd heard about me. They're like, oh my God, I think I saw Tedevan in a Nickelback video.
Well, I've appeared as the lead in a music video with a much, 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 much smaller band called The Weary in back in Australia. And they were a great band, but they're very small. And I played the protagonist, who was this guy who had a milk fetish. And it's basically 4 minutes of me pouring milk all over myself and other people. It was a hell of a lot of fun, shot in a day. And by the end of it, I smelt like a busted asshole. But
Oh, dude.
that's not why we've got you on the show today. Tedevan, if you had to describe, like, let's pretend we've met at a cocktail party for the first time, and I know nothing about you, and you nothing about me, and I say, Tedevan, nice to meet you. What do you do? How the hell would you describe this?
I mean, I would say, in a simple, I'm a wandering nomad, like a modern wandering nomad. And I'm fascinated by extreme metaphysical phenomenon, as well as people that have done a lot of extreme spiritual austere practices. So like tapas yogis, people that just do these really incredible, crazy things. And a tapas yogi is someone that will go years without sleeping, just meditating, and they have this incredible intensity and this incredible peace to them. It's done either for the benefit of the earth, or they're still working out some of their own karma in the process. And I've seen, spiritualists, psychic surgeons, qigong masters that could burn you without touching you, really gifted psychics and mediums. So I've been fascinated by that stuff since I was little, but I didn't actually experience any of it personally until I was about 21. That's when I actually had a real experience where I was like, oh, wow.
What happened? What happened when you were 21?
So I used to do crew when I was in college, and I had a knee injury, and I was doing physical therapy. I was really doing everything you're supposed to do, and I wasn't really getting that much better, probably because I'd re-injured it too many times. And through my mom's, she was part of some health center spa place, and there was a yoga instructor there, and I mentioned my problem, and she said, I know this couple, and they do Tai Chi Qigong. I think they can heal you without touching you. They did it for I think it was their ankle. Yeah, I was just really desperate. So I said, okay, let me try this. And I went over to their house. They live in the suburbs of New Jersey. It was a old Jewish hippie married couple who was in the advertising business, and on the side did Tai Chi Qigong healing. And they physically altered my knee without touching me. I felt heat. I felt tingling. I saw swirling colors. And I was a straight edge guy. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't drink alcohol. So all of that was kind of pretty wild to me. I'd had a little glimpse of that experience a few months before from someone else who had a little bit of a healing gift, but these people definitely had more, and they definitely cultivated more of a practice.
Were you what you would consider pretty skeptical about the stuff before it happened to you?
No, I was desperate. And so I really wanted it to work, but in the same way where I wanted my physical therapy to work, but it didn't work. Right. So it was kind of I've always been pretty open. I believe that these things existed. I just never had the experience. I know everybody always wants me to be a skeptic. Like when I was interviewed by Humans of New York, and I remember he's like, so you were never skeptical? I was like, no, I figured this stuff always kind of existed. I had an innate knowing that these things always existed, even though I hadn't personally had the experience.
The reason I wanted to ask that question, Tedevan, is that I remember having a very natural skepticism about a bunch of things, which have completely evolved over the last, say, 10 years, right? Is there any scientific way of breaking down what's happening with something like Qigong? Have they been able to explain that to people that aren't spiritually minded?
Well, I think it depends on the type of gift the Qigong practitioner has. One thing that I can say from my experience, there's a guy I used to see in LA named Master Zhou, Zhou. You can check him out. He passed away recently, but he would literally physically burn me without touching me. Now he would take like a wet napkin and on some tin foil, and he'd place it on my body, and then he'd hover his hand just a little above me. And when he got to areas where I had problems, it was excruciatingly hot, like he was going to burn me. And when he got to areas where I didn't really have problems, it felt more just like warm, but it wasn't so intense. And so I know like skeptics are like, oh, he's doing some chemical reaction thing. And I was like, how did he make the temperature then fluctuate based on where it was on my body with his hand hover? Didn't make any sense. But I find that people will go to extreme lengths to maintain their reality as they've been conditioned and programmed to, even when it stops making sense.
Yeah, damn, I wish I'd written this quote down. It was around the ego will seek something rather than the truth to maintain its hold. And I see that a lot in people, and I used to see it myself a lot as well. Tedevan, talk to me about the spiritual schmuck.
So Spiritual Schmuck is a series that I've made. It's on YouTube. We've done 7 episodes so far. And the idea, the premise of it is that I want to go around the world and I want to film people that can do some really impressive phenomena, whether it's lighting things on fire with their hands or, doing what they call psychic surgery, which, is in the Philippines, Brazil, Mexico, Cuba, lots of different places. Or it's, levitating hypothetically, or even things that I couldn't even think of. That's what I want to do. But I also want to do it in a way that's humorous, because I find that I have seen shows about these things. And sometimes I've actually seen the person they're doing it on. And I feel that the way that they do it makes it feel kind of contrived or hokey to me. And I know that the person they're showing is legit. So my theory is, just because it's miraculous doesn't mean we can't crack some jokes along the way. And so that's basically what Spiritual Schmuck's about. And also, I think a skeptical person or, mainstream world would look at me and they'd be like, this guy's a schmuck. But it's like some sort of spiritual stuff. So Spiritual Schmuck, that's also kind of the essence of it.
What might be fun, just as a brief interlude, what's the Hebrew meaning of the word schmuck? Because people have heard this word thousands of times, but they don't know. I know what it means. You tell the audience.
Schmuck is a penis or dick, I guess, for slang. And it takes on, see, when you say it in English, it has a very different vibe than when you say it in Yiddish.
I thought it was I thought I knew that it was the leftover skin from a circumcision.
I'm not an expert, but if you Google it, I mean, maybe I'm confusing schmuck with putz. I feel like they're in the same ballpark.
You're going to get asked this question a lot. SCHMUCK. I'm sure, because Laban is a very Jewish name. So I've been forced to do some research. Schmuck or schmuck is a pejorative term meaning one who's stupid or foolish, or an obnoxious, contemptible, or detestable person.
They gave a really nasty definition. I've heard it used a little more casually.
This is from Wikipedia. It's not even from Urban Dictionary. But the second part is the word came into the English language from Yiddish, which has a similar pejorative meanings, but where its literal meaning is a vulgar term for a penis. You're right. You are right. Here I've been thinking for 15 years that schmuck was the leftover skin from a circumcision.
I mean, that was once part of a penis, so you're not that far off. So you're dealing with the discarded part of the schmuck.
Yeah, it's like one of my father's favorite jokes. He said it's something about getting a circumcision. He says he knows a guy, he doesn't charge anything, but he works for tips.
I really like that.
So, and like you could, because I was angry for a long time, Tedevan, about being forcibly circumcised as a baby. And my mother's excuse was that, your grandfather had it done and all of his soldier buddies in World War II got infected foreskins when they were fighting in Egypt. And I thought about it as maybe a 13 or 14-year-old. And I said, 1, this isn't 1942. 2, I've got access to running water. And 3, I'm not sleeping with Egyptian whores the entire time. I don't think she really thought it through. But anyway, that's just something that regurgitated from the past. But so we got sidetracked. So Spiritual Schmuck, very proud Jewish guy, and you're 6'7" tall. Yeah. So you're not exactly a wallflower when it comes to this. The first 7 episodes have been focused around one particular trip to Cuba.
Yeah, and there'll be a few more episodes we hope to get to. So we went to Cuba to see Jorge Goliat. He's known as El Machete. And I was reading about him during the pandemic, and he had some alternative treatment to stop people from getting COVID, which involved rum and camphor. That was the part I found least interesting. And then that was like the head. It was like rum drinking, cigarette smoking. Curandero has crazy, unique treatment for COVID. And I was like, really, that's so bizarre because it mentions that he's cutting people with a machete and a hook. And how is that not the lead of the article? So they took the kind of the least interesting aspect of him and, pivoted into something else. It was really strange. And I read that and I was like, whoa, they buried the lead. So I found him through a Daily Mail article, and I was just super fascinated to check him out when I could make it there. And I wanted to film it. And I told a friend of mine, and he said, my Spanish is mediocre. And he's like, I'll translate. I'll come. And then I said, well, we still need someone to film us. He's like, I got a guy. And that guy said, yeah, it's always been like my dream to go and film these types of things. I said, that's great. And then my buddy's ex-girlfriend, she was a head editor at Tiny House Nation. And she's like, I'll edit. And then, she also helped me develop the story and all these other things. That's how it all got rolling.
So this is really fascinating, Tedevan. I just literally came back from a week-long health retreat here in Medellin in Colombia. And you mentioned rum and camphor and cigars and cigarettes. The El Machete was.
He didn't recommend cigarettes for people, but his thing was to avoid COVID. It had something to do with rum and camphor, though.
What's camphor though? What's camphor?
Man, it has a very particular smell to it. Honestly, we'd have to Google it. I don't know if off the top of my head. And I didn't read into that part of the thing. Like I said, that to me, out of all the things this guy was doing, was the least intriguing part. And I thought it was funny that it was the headline.
No. Well, I think it's more interesting than probably what you realize now, because, and we'll go into this in a minute, but the cigars, not cigarette smoking, but cigar smoking. This guy smokes cigars pretty much nonstop, or cigarettes? I can't remember.
Cigarettes, but he also does this crazy thing. I've never seen anybody hang a cigarette perfectly from their lip and walk around for an insane amount of time. It's like it's as if it's glued there. I've never seen anybody do it that well, ever. It's such a bizarre little random ability on top of the other much more bizarre stuff that he does.
Well, just as a side note, and this is something that you could maybe go and do some more research on, it seems like that there is a legitimate amount of data suggesting that nicotine, cigarette smokers, when COVID hit, were the least affected. The ones that didn't have major comorbidities and stuff, because there's something in the nicotine that blocks one of the receptors and prevents you from getting COVID. And there's looking like there's more and more data that the COVID was, well, they know it was man-made, but that it was made from venom. So this is all not, I don't know how confirmed this is yet, but it's just something worth thinking. And the nicotine does something to prevent the venom affecting the body. So it's very interesting. Just as a side,
I've heard about I've heard nicotine doing some stuff, but he wasn't recommend. His thing was more about camphor and rum. And like I said, I skimmed over that because I was interested in this guy cutting people with his machete and giving medical diagnoses with candle and wax. That was the part that I was like. Yeah.
So you didn't just want to go and report on this. You wanted to actually have this done to you.
Absolutely.
You may not know me, but let me tell you one thing. I don't care what you think. I'ma just do me, and I wanna hear you sing.
I feel that I'm always game for someone that I trust actually has the gift, especially if they're going to cut me with a real machete. I had been doing research online. I was making TikTok videos about it. And I actually had a few people reach out to me telling me about someone in their family that had a miraculous healing with him. And we had a lot of wild synchronicities leading into actually going there. And so I felt pretty confident that this guy had the ability. A 30-year track record. He's only charging, 70 cents per surgery. So these were just some of the indications to me that, okay, I think this guy probably is able to do what people are saying. And I think the thing is when you're doing anything mystical, especially in the realm of healing, nobody's going to spend the time and money to document you. And then on top of that, there's sort of an unrealistic expectation that you should be 100% successful. And anytime you fail, they'll jump on top of it. And you're like, see, I told you it's a scam. And I understand that's the culture we live in. It's a double standard of, there's literally cancer medical treatments with 5 to 10% mild success with extreme nasty side effects and, tons of money. And they salute doctors for using that treatment. This guy's charging 70 cents and, has tapped into something that we don't understand in Western medicine, and he's getting results. And that's something that makes people uncomfortable. That's something they don't understand, something that seems either to them a con or literally dangerous is effective. I don't pretend to understand how or why it works. Everyone's process is different, but I just at least say we live in a multidimensional universe, and the amount of stuff that we don't know is far vaster than what we do know. And I just stay open, and I'm all about results. And if people show up and they have serious cancer, then they don't, or they're in a wheelchair and then they're not, you figured something out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, folks, this conversation will do what Tedevan's talking about absolutely no justice at all. You have to go and watch the series. Don't jump straight to the video where all the gory stuff happens. And I don't know how much you want to. I think we want to give people enough of a pique and interest to go and check this out. So on YouTube, look under Spiritual Schmuck and you'll find the channel. Go and subscribe to Tedevan's channel and like and share these videos if you get some value from them. It is so interesting to me. It's been so well put together for what was a fleeting conversation, thought that you had in your brain about going and pursuing this. And I'm fascinated to know, Tedevan, what's next? What's the next project that you've got planned or you're in the middle of?
Well, I'd say right now we had a sit down interview with him, which we didn't know for sure was going to happen. But I did have a clairvoyant that sort of told me that it would happen. And, there's a lot of people that want to, I imagine, interview him or at the very least, experience his gifts. And he's pretty busy. But he was nice enough to sit down, let us interview him, and he invited us over for lunch that him and his girlfriend made for us, which was really cool. So I feel really fortunate to have had that experience. We're going to get to that. There's a lot of translating and figuring out how we want to cut that interview. We're not going to put up the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. And we just need more people to watch the series and kind of take interest in the project. And if that happens, then we'll see. But regardless of, I'm obviously hopeful that the series can continue, but my life has always been about this. So whether or not I have someone filming me and we're editing it and there's voiceover, I'm still going. I'm still doing these things. It doesn't change my life, but it would certainly change other people's life to consider these things and have these experiences. And if it doesn't do either of that, hopefully it just makes them laugh and go, what the fuck?
Yeah, folks, just so you know what you're in for, Tedevan gets his testicles sliced open with a huge machete and some kind of fibroid cyst removed without any anesthetic. If I'm not mistaken, maybe he drank
none that I saw. I didn't take any pills. I mean, he might have doused the machete with something real quick, but there was nothing that I didn't take a shot or a pill. So, so basically he had diagnosed that I had something that would have made it nearly impossible for me to get a woman pregnant. And I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. So that definitely wasn't at the forefront of my mind. The Qigong master had sort of alluded to that I had issues in that area as well. He spoke a little English. Usually I think he was speaking Mandarin and his assistant was translating. And so, and I'd seen Master Zhou and so I knew that I kind of had an issue there, plus my own intuition. And he said, if you want to have kids, we have to do this. And my thought wasn't, oh yeah, I definitely need to have kids. Let's do this. My thought more was, I said, it's in the thing. I said, just you decide what's most important. And I don't know if it was a spiritual reason or because he's a, Cuban Haitian guy, and having kids, if you haven't had it, it's pretty important culturally. So I don't know. I never really got a chance to ask him about that. And that's what he said. And I said, okay, let's do this. But before we went, me and Al, who went with me on this adventure, joined me on this journey, I had read about someone getting one of these surgeries. I was like, man, as long as that doesn't happen to me, that was sort of like the most absurd, worst case scenario that I did not see that coming prior to going. But it was Karen's, this clairvoyant I get readings from sometimes in England. And she just said, you're going to have to take a leap of faith. And I didn't realize how much of a leap of faith it was going to be.
So, well, you went in there. What did you have any existing health challenges before you went and got diagnosed by?
I had some stuff, and I had a few different things. Nothing like overwhelming. I mean, a lot of these people were in extreme pain or had much more serious things than I did. I was more just wanting to experience his gift, since the camera was going to be on me and we're going to be able to follow the whole process. So that was what that was about. I'm always happy to see a gifted healer. I think we all have little knickknacks and things. So that's what that was about.
Well, I'm just curious to know how you're feeling because it's been a couple of months since the surgery?
No, it's been a solid year, because we filmed in 2022 in May.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a year.
Any obvious improvements in your health since the surgery and the meeting with El Machete?
So what I would say is, oddly, I went to be able to sleep a little bit better. I was having, I think, like subtle sleep apnea, and he was really big into hibiscus leaves. Yeah, hibiscus leaves for that. And he didn't do anything for me specifically. I mean, he did give me some herbal concoctions. I've been noticing I have been sleeping a lot better, but that wasn't actually what he worked on. So he worked on a kidney stone that was forming, and I definitely felt a lot more energy afterwards, more energized. And the next day I felt a lot of sensations going on in my right kidney. So a lot of, I wouldn't say pain, but just sensations, a little discomfort. And then the one where he went into my scrotum with the machete, that I felt the most discomfort in the moment. But as soon as he was done, I was good. It was like nothing had happened. It was very bizarre. And my cameraman, Marvin, and Al, who joined me on this, they were, Al honestly didn't even think it happened. He just sort of was in denial at first. He's like, no, he made it look like he went in there. And I'm like, what, dude? No, that's not what happened. You go through something so intense and so uncomfortable and painful, and someone that was right there is trying to tell you that didn't happen. So I had to drop trowel for him to show him that it definitely happened. We didn't do that right there. We went back, and we have a funny scene in the series dealing with that moment.
Because one of the things that we spoke about in the lead up to the podcast together was the Jim Carrey Man on the Moon movie based on what's the guy's name?
A Filipino psychic surgeon, and that guy got pretty famous because Shirley MacLaine, I believe, had some type of stomach cancer. She was really sick, and she went to him, and she got better. And so that kind of put the guy. I'm sure he was already on the map before Shirley MacLaine, but that added a different element of people that went. I can't. Alex Orbitas or something like that. I think that was his name. I'm not 100% sure. You could look it up. But long story short, from what I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, he had a gift at one point. And then because he was, I guess, very into the money that he was able to get from his gift, at a certain point, I heard he lost his gift. Now, if that happened by the time he saw Jim Carrey, if it was, it was too late and Jim wasn't going to, I'm not Jim Carrey, Andy Kaufman, sorry. Annie Kaufman wasn't going to survive. I don't know. I can't really answer those questions, but I have known people that have gone to the Philippines with cancer and other extreme maladies and come back with a clear bill of health. There's just a different standard of when you do Western medicine, what's an acceptable outcome based on extreme expense often. And then when you do anything that's considered alternative or holistic. Now, that being said, there's a lot of people in the alternative holistic space that are just, they don't really have much of a gift. There's a lot of self-deludedness, a bit of a con, things like that. And it's, you want to make sure that this person that you're seeing has been vetted by people that you trust, and ideally multiple people. So that's what I look for. And once again, I look for results. And if I hear from many different types of people from many walks of life, hey, this crazy thing happened, then where there's smoke, there might be fire, and I want to go check it out.
Well, I think one of the other things that we're contending with is a deliberate subversion by the media to certainly not glorify those kind of modalities. I don't know if you've heard about Project Mockingbird, which the CIA started putting in propaganda messages to support the war effort during the World War II, and then it was officially started after World War II, and this is all public information as well, that like the amount of information and subverting the course of the truth they put in movies and TV is mind-blowing. And if that is a very effective way of healing cancers or major chronic health conditions, the big pharmaceuticals, dare I say the name again, are not going to want that to come out. So who would know? Your best bet is to watch channels like what Tedevan's doing. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen much else on the internet that exists in the way that you do it.
No, there are other people out there documenting this. I don't think anyone's kind of combined this combination of entertainment and
that's what I mean. Like the humor component. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I thought was really important, because I know that for a lot of people, this is a lot to bear. This is a little stretch of the mind. And though I certainly believe, the pharmaceutical industry would not get any benefit from these types of things existing, I think most people coming from the Western mindset have been conditioned generally to believe that these things don't exist. The modern world is devoid of mysticism and phenomena. And so I think I view it more as that. I'm not saying that these other, corporations don't have their own vested interests, but they're just everyone's just rolling with the status quo, right? Yeah, this is how it's been. This is how it's always been. And yeah, whatever. And anytime there's someone who is a scam, they're going to make a big deal about it and see, we told you they're all this, and we can do that with anything, right? You can find a doctor that when he's not being a doctor, he murders people, right? And we don't go, oh, see, I told you all doctors are murderers on the side, So it's something that people are already incredulous about and already on the fence about, and they're just looking for a reason to just say, no, it's all BS. Yeah. And I will acknowledge there is a lot of BS out there, but there's also people that really do have gifts that people can't explain coming from a Western way of thinking.
Well, you never answered the question fully. Who's next? Who's someone that you're researching at the moment that you can share with us? Or maybe you can't, but at least I'm going to try.
No. I'm not trying to keep anyone secret. There are some psychic surgeons in the Philippines that I'm interested in. There's apparently some woman in Mexico that's made it in my radar recently who also has this gift. There's a woman in Brazil known as the Cotton Lady. That's what it translates to. I don't know how to say her name correctly. I'm not going to try. But her nickname is the Cotton Lady. And you give her a whole bunch of cotton, and then she pulls off bad energy and different things, either from you or your family lineage, and it will materialize physically sometimes in all sorts of strange objects. And she's been doing it for 30 years, and she's really famous for it in Brazil. So that's someone that I'm interested in, as well as I would have filmed Master Zhou, the Qigong master, but he's passed. So, someone that can do that type of stuff, that has the type of Qi where they can boil water with their hands I'm open. One of the things interesting on TikTok, one of our videos blew up and it got 2.7 million views. And one of the comments that I kept seeing over and over again is people going, "We've got guys like that in Africa. We've got guys like that in Africa," which I don't doubt for a second, but not one of them said, "This is their name. This is where you can find them." And I said, "Well, that's all well and good, but you got to give me some hints here. Africa's a big place." So that was something I saw in the comments.
Well, Tedevan, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, one way, I think good ways, go to my YouTube channel, Spiritual Schmuck. I respond to all the comments. And my email, Tedevan Kurzweil at Gmail. So KRIYAVAN KURZWEIL at gmail.com. That's a great way to reach me, or my Instagram, Nomad for Hire. Nomad, NOMADFORHIRE. Just hit me up there. And those are some good ways to find me.
Yeah, I think if you're listening to this and someone, how to put Tedevan in contact with this person that has this particular strange, crazy gift, send that email and let them know, hook them up, because you're going to need some help finding these people, right?
Well, yeah, we also kind of, our idea is to sort of, as we get more traction, to kind of put it to a vote. Like, hey, we got this person or this person. Who do you guys want me to go track down and try to film? And so we'll let decisions be made that way as well. We'll allow input from the audience to kind of impact things. Now, sometimes logistical things beyond our control will make it that we won't be able to do their option, but that would be ideally what I would like to do moving forward.
Is your TikTok account Spiritual Schmuck as well?
Yes, it is. I struggle with TikTok a bit. I got lucky with this one viral video, and I always get shadow banned because everything on TikTok can randomly be construed as dangerous, or the cigarette, the machete, whatever. So we do our best with what we can there, but YouTube is really the whole series, and we're really trying to bring people to watch.
That's awesome, dude. Tedevan, do you have any concluding thoughts for our amazing audience today?
I think the biggest thing is, when it comes to these things, you got to have a healthy balance of just being open if you're not open enough, but also being a little bit skeptical, because there's so many people trying to say they can do amazing things, and they're just either trying to make money or they're self-deluded. And that's a real danger of this stuff. People can get hurt and can get harmed, and that's the reality of it. But that's also the reality of going to a bad doctor, or medical malpractice, or a hospital mess up that kills you. There's always things that you just need to check into. Don't just assume that everything's going to be done right, and don't just assume one person says something's legit that it is. So dig around, find out for yourself. And I think also one of the other things I want people to realize is that these innate gifts, not always some of the more extreme ones, exist within us. And so that's another thing that I really want people to realize, that these miracles have always happened in all places, all cultures, all religions, all times. And that exists within us. If we dig deep enough within us, we'll find some of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tedevan Kurzweil.
Thank you.